customers are left to guess if their particular product is going to be supported in the future. And then you reference that these products that are listed here, it's implying that these certainly will be invested in. But I'm also caught by the title Cloud Suite, because there's also an absence of their strategy in order to really get fully cloud functional. This implies that these products are also the products that are going to be cloud enabled. So they're not only the future, they're the cloud future because they're calling them Cloud Suite as the title.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. There are two ways to grow an ERP company. Either you build the product from scratch or acquire several products to gain market share and then figure out your product strategy. Both approaches have pros and cons and implications for customers. But there comes the point in the company's life cycle when you need to consolidate your product portfolio, or you can't sustain it. Also, no one commercializes the idea of micro verticals as much as Infor. But are they really deep in these micro verticals, or is it just marketing hype? How's their micro vertical functionality compared to other deeper solutions such as IFS, Plex, IQMS, and QAD? Also, there are two approaches to building micro vertical functionality. Either you can keep the underlying product different or the same and utilize the industry packs on top of the core product. But Infor seems to be claiming that it has purpose-built ERP for each micro verticals. How true is that? Is that true for both large companies as well as SMBs? In today's episode, we invited a panel of industry experts for a live discussion on LinkedIn to discuss major stories in the ERP and digital transformation space and an objective and independent review of Infor's capabilities. We covered many grounds, including their positioning in specific micro verticals and their deeper capabilities than other manufacturing ERP software. Finally, we discussed their product portfolio and their future roadmap, history, current cloud capabilities, and their evolution as a company. With that, let's get to the conversation. All right, everybody, welcome to today's show. And for today, we have a vendor called Infor, which is going to be super exciting. Our methodology for these reviews is going to be, first, we look for the financial information. If it is released by either the private company, obviously it is going to be there for the public company. If we don't have that, then we go back to the marketing history in terms of the press releases that the company has done. And we try to dig into the information, how consistent they have been from the corporate strategy perspective. And then the third dimension that we use is going to be the reviews, and if we can spot any trends there. So we are going to discuss all of that. But before that, we are going to start with everybody's intro. Phil, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hi, everybody. My name is Phil Kerper. I'm just coming off several decades of general management in mid-market companies where I was involved in many ERP and software stack implementations. I'm currently the managing director of Ringling Business Solutions, and we help executive leadership teams develop their strategy, both their business strategy as well as their IT strategy. And we're also more and more helping IT teams develop the programs that they have and develop the business case that they can present and successfully get the funding that they need. So wonderful to be here today, Sam.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Phil. Next, I'm going to move to Dave. Dave, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Chrysler, and I own an operations consulting company called the Chrysler Club, where we work with business owners in manufacturing, construction, and cannabis to help them create the systems they need to reclaim their lives and grow their business. And I come to you today with more than 20 years in manufacturing operations, directly responsible for several ERP implementations. So thanks for having me, Sam.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. Andy, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Thank you so much, Sam. My name's Andy Pratico. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers since 1980, manufacturers all over Canada and all over the United States. And I've also published a book helping manufacturers on how to uncover the truth about ERP systems. And thank you very much, Sam.
Of course. Thank you so much, Andy, for being here. It's always fun to have you. So first, we are going to start with the stories. And for today, we don't have a lot of stories. The first story that is coming from our friends at Optimizely, and Phil, I'm sure you are probably going to get a kick out of it. So what they have done is they seem to be have acquired a marketing orchestration platform, and they are claiming that that combines the capabilities of a content marketing platform, marketing resource management, and digital asset management. And now I don't know, I mean, I'm not too familiar with this space. Maybe Phil, you might be able to help me. I don't know if this digital asset management that they have, is it similar to PIM? Are they getting some of the PIM capabilities now as part of the Optimizely platform? But seems like they are becoming slightly more the marketing workflow management tool. Obviously, they were really, really good at the e-commerce capabilities, but now they are getting some of that project management capability and the resource management capabilities. Do you have any comments, Phil, by any chance?
Yeah, Sam brings that up because I was involved in standing up EpiServer as their e-commerce platform, which became Optimizely. Ever since they moved in the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of acquisitions. And based on what I know from when I stood up the EpiServer platform, this is filling some holes that they had. We were having to use other software platforms and API type of technique in order to have this type of functionality in Epi and Optimizely. So they're filling out things that they did not have. Sam.
Very interesting. So obviously, these are going to be exciting capabilities. And from the positioning perspective, they are positioned in media, retail. They don't have as much exposure in manufacturing. So obviously, typically the products that are going to be slightly more heavier in the e-commerce, they typically target the other verticals, not so much manufacturing. Manufacturing tend to be slightly lighter overall in the e-commerce capabilities, just because not a lot of manufacturers either require the capabilities or they just don't have the digital capabilities or the presence, unless we are talking about very large companies which might have their own internal IT team and they might own everything from the product development perspective. So that's pretty much it for Optimizely. Unless you guys have any other comments, I will move to the next story. Okay, so the next story is coming from a vendor called Pega Systems. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pega. They sort of operate in that CRM slash BPM space. And sometimes it might be hard to correlate and connect the dots how CRM is related with BPM. And in their case, they seem to go after the companies that are going to be really involved in that call center management, because that's where the real CRM play is. They try to automate a lot of business processes from that customer interaction perspective. When these companies are going to be calling these call center employees, that's where they need workflow management. And sometimes those capabilities could be as complex as how you are going to see inside the bank when you have the front office operations that could be fairly busy and involved. So the target industries for Pegasystems is going to be, they play a lot in telecom, media, tech, where you are going to have a lot of call center traffic. Obviously, they are very involved in the banking and financial services as well. Not so much in manufacturing, but they have fairly deep product in the business process management, which is going to be BPM. And if I remember the acronym right, I don't remember the acronym. I don't know if anybody else remembers in the room what BPM stands for. Okay,
BPM?
So yeah,
Business process management.
Business process management, right? Yeah. Business process management notation is the full form of BPMN, which is the language that they use to sort of create an abstraction layer on top of your business processes. So you can define all of these business processes. You can map So you are going to have far more visibility into business process, and you have a lot of different frameworks that companies utilize when they become super sophisticated in the digital capabilities. But obviously, you don't see a lot of that in when you talk about small to medium sized manufacturers, distributors, they are not going to have all of that. So one of the things that they have, Pegasystems, they have really strong rule engine that is part of their platform, and that actually does a lot of things from the customer experience perspective. So again, when your customer experience is going to be super complex, when your product offerings are going to be super complex, when your channels interactions are going to be super complex, that's where they have the play. So right now, what they have done is this is the AI powered capability for modernizing traditional customer journeys. Now it is going to be backed by AI. So the customer journeys are going to be far richer overall from the experience perspective. And here they are saying that with the next best action customer journeys, marketers can orchestrate their customer journeys with real-time propensity scoring. A lot of companies try to do this, but it's going to be very offline score. I don't know if Salesforce has this capability. So here we are talking about real-time propensity scoring, which could be much deeper overall in terms of capabilities than we have. Integrate customer data into decisioning models. A lot of customers that we have in our space, manufacturing, distribution, they don't even have the customer data platform, to be honest. They don't utilize for their e-commerce efforts. So this is definitely slightly cheaper. Do you guys have any questions, comments? But that's for the story for today. So if you don't have anything, then obviously the vendor for today is going to be Infor. And I will brief you, or from the marketing strategy perspective, how they are positioned in the market, and we will provide you a little bit of the competitive landscape based on the different reviews that we have done so far, where Infor is in their journey and where their marketing positioning is. And then obviously, if you have any gaps, then you guys can tell me what all we need to cover from the positioning perspective. So overall, there is always a debate in the ERP community. The three ERP providers are always sort of going to be Oracle, SAP are like, non-disputable position that, okay, they are always going to be top two in terms of the market share. Now, third position or fourth position is always going to be trickier. A lot of people feel that Infor is probably third. Some people feel Microsoft, some people feel Sage, depending upon how you look at the market share. But if you look at the customer size, okay, so typically when people are saying Infor is the third largest company overall from the market share perspective, they are typically referring to the companies that have lag in the enterprise space, meaning really large customers. Okay, so if you look at the SMB space, probably Sage is going to have much higher market share compared to other companies, but Sage is very rarely in the mix because not everybody who is talking in media really care for the SMB market. So here, when they talk about the third positioning, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, they are typically talking about very large customers. They are talking about upper mid enterprise market. That's where Infor is probably going to have third or fourth positioning overall in the market. Now, from the strategy perspective, if you actually look at their competitors, for example, Apicor or the other companies, Infor is a fairly new company in the market. Okay, they already have the third or fourth position, but overall, Infor is newer compared to Apicor. Apicor has been in the market since 80s. We saw in case of IQMS, I believe IQMS has been in the market for a very long time. Infor started after Salesforce. So the Salesforce started somewhere in 1999. Infor probably the date that I could see in the documentation, that is somewhere 2002, 2003, which makes it very, very new company. So they have had a lot of aggressive growth overall from the company perspective. Now, the growth is always tricky for a technology company, as we have seen with a lot of different vendors. So when we look at Infor, the Infor's primary method of growth has been through acquisition. They were going nuts towards the beginning of their years, just the way ECI is approaching the market at this point of time, the way Apicor is approaching the market at this point of time. They are probably acquiring one company every other month. Infor has stopped doing that long back. Okay. So they acquired a lot of products to get really
large market share. And obviously, once you are in that position, then it becomes very hard, especially if you are a software company, that, okay, you have so many different products. What do you do next? Okay, are you going to consolidate all of this? Are you going to kill some of the products? So it becomes very hard position for the vendors, because customers are not going to move with any of their investment that easily. So that has been the challenge for Infor. The next challenge that most legacy vendors are facing at this point of time, obviously, is going to be their cloud journey. So if you have the cloud native vendors, obviously their products are going to be the user friendly. They are going to be cloud native, but just like your SAP, Oracle, Sage, Infor struggles with the same challenge because their products are legacy. So obviously they had to figure out how they are going to please their existing customers and how they are going to accommodate the new customers as well. But that is the challenge across the industry. Overall, from the targeting perspective, they like to be very focused in the industries that they are really good at. In fact, Infor is probably the company that really commercialized the idea of this whole notion of micro verticals, to be honest. But then a lot of companies have micro vertical capabilities. But the way Infor approached the idea of micro vertical is very different from the way other companies have approached. In case of Infor, obviously they had a lot of different products focused on specific industries. It's very, very, very hard to consolidate all of that portfolio. So one of the things that they like to differentiate is they have the unique ERP product for each of those micro verticals. Now there are pros and cons of all of that. Okay, they have figured out a way to sort of bring this together using their Infor OS layer, which is going to be slightly more backend as opposed to if you look at some of the other competitors, for example, Acumatica, Naturally, they have their micro industry flavors. Obviously, they are not going to be as deep as Infor in terms of capabilities, but they are going to have just one product. They are not going to have multiple products. So we are going to be discussing all of that. Did we not cover anything from the targeting positioning perspective? Dave, Phil, Andy?
No, I think you did a good job covering that, Sam.
Okay, amazing. The other point that we like to cover is going to be the channel strategy and the consulting expertise, whether Infor prefers direct interaction versus channel friendly. So most of the vendors that we have seen, some go direct, some go hybrid, and some are going to be purely through channel. In case of Infor, when they started, they were not very channel friendly to begin with. Okay, but then they realized that they needed channel. So obviously the pros and cons that are going to be associated with any of the vendors that were primarily direct, okay, they are probably going to be applicable with Infor as well. So right now Infor does have a channel, but it's not going to be as comprehensive as other vendors such as your Sage, Microsoft, Oracle, SAP. They have far bigger channel per product. And by the way, the other problem that Infor has is, because when you are going to be working with the channel, each of the channel partner is going to specialize on one specific product. Now, when you have too many products, obviously you are going to get a lot of problems because of that. So we are going to be discussing all of that, but their channel strategy has been primarily for lower SMB market. If you look at SAP's channel strategy, SAP likes to give away at least $1 billion for to their partners. They get involved with the deals only when it is going to be more than $1 billion. In case of Infor, it's going to be far lower that partners and the consultants are really working with. So you might be working with Infor a lot. Infor still prefers the direct strategy for a lot of different products and markets, but they have a little consulting play there. Okay, so overall, from the positioning perspective, our goal always is going to be to find the financial statements. Now, Infor is a private company, so we don't really have the detailed financial statements. Some private companies do provide the information, and I was thinking that Infor, being a large company, they will be providing a lot more details to their investors. But the only thing I could find on their site is these details, which is going to be just some KPIs. I don't really have anything. In case of IFS that we reviewed last time, we had slightly detailed presentation. At least we knew how the product strategy. In my mind, when I look at any OEM, any vendor, I want to know what your product strategy is going to be. Even if it means, for example, let's say in case of SAP, they are saying that, you know what, I want all of my customers to move from ECC to S4. Sure, that's going to be a threat. A lot of customers are going to be nervous, but at least you know that, you know, what is going to happen to the product. Now, if I don't have that information available, sometimes I could be operating in dark, and it's very, very, very hard to find that out. I try to look at the product roadmaps. They are not really publicly available, at least through the website. So it's very, very, very hard to figure out what the product strategy is and which product is going to be there in the portfolio, which product is not going to be there in the portfolio, because obviously they have a lot of products and they have to do something about it, because it's very, very, very expensive to maintain these individual products when you are trying to build so much functionality that none of your competitors can really offer. Obviously, that's going to be a very expensive deal. So we are going to see how Infor is managing that. But overall, they have a lot of customers. They have roughly, in the investors section on the site, we could find 65,000 customers. Phil, I think you found 90,000 customers on Wikipedia. So there is a little dispute there overall in terms of number of customers. I don't know which is true. Sometimes there is a different way of counting the customers. Sometimes companies do include their entities or different divisions as part of the customers. So it's very, very, very hard to tell. But ballpark, roughly 70,000 customers is what they are going to have, which is fairly large compared to other ERP vendors that we have reviewed so far. They seem to be claiming that they have 14,000 customers, but I could not find, I don't know if you guys could find any information. What are these cloud customers doing? Which product are they on? Which product is really successful in cloud? Which products are not? Because when you as a customer are reviewing a specific product, you need to know what is going to be the future of the product. And if you are simply looking at 40,000 number, it's very, very, very hard to know whether it is for LN, is it for Infor M3, is it for Sightline, CSI, Visual, whichever product it is. I like to look at the numbers for the product because that's the product. As a customer, I am buying, so I need to know what those numbers are. They have a lot of employees, and the reason why they have so many employees, as I mentioned, they like to go direct. The companies that are going to be direct, we have seen, and I don't remember, I think QAD has a lot of employee count because they were very direct in their business model as well. So they had to have a lot of employees as part of their support organization, the professional services organization. So when you look at purely at employees, it might appear that Infor is a massive company. But the reason why they need all these employees is because they are keeping that professional services component as part of their organization, as opposed to working with the partners or the consultants. In case of, let's say, SAP, Oracle, they are going to have far bigger presence from the consulting perspective. So it's not really one to one when you compare the number of employees with Infor with any other ERP vendors in the market. They seem to be claiming that they have roughly 2,000 partners. Again, the partners, if you look at the size of the partners, the companies are slightly smaller. If you look at Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, the partners are much bigger in size. Okay, they have far bigger exposure overall. They are far bigger businesses. In case of Infor, even their largest partner is very small. So so that says something, that the partners are not getting as much revenue share as Infor is getting. So again, you need to look at, when you look at the numbers, you need to compare where exactly are they getting these. Is professional services and support included as part of the revenue numbers that you are seeing from the company? So you need to probably remove that when you are comparing two different vendors if you care for those numbers. They are present in 177 countries, and I think that number was 200, Phil, on Wikipedia. So there is a little confusion there as well. But obviously Infor has very global bigger solution, and that's why they are mentioned typically in that third or fourth position, because they are targeting very large customers, and they have been obviously very successful with those large customers as well. And those large customers are going to have very different needs than your typical SMB. the large customers require the localization in many different countries that your average SMB may not care. So obviously, in those markets, Infor is going to be better. All right. If you guys have any comments, I can take those. Otherwise, I'm actually going to move to the next slide. Okay, so obviously you cannot see anything on the slide, and this is designed for a purpose. The reason for that is the number of products that Infor is carrying at this. They are still supporting all of these products. It's very, very, very hard to fit in on one slide, which is amazing and phenomenal in a way that you are still investing your money in all of these products. And if I'm the customer and if I'm on some of legacy products, I am going to have a question. Okay, what is going to happen to my product? So those are the right questions that you should be asking. Okay, which are the products that you are going to be committing to at this point of time? Yes, you are going to say that, what, I am not going to kick you out from the product, but there's no way you can have that much money that you can invest in all of these products and be equally committed. Software development does not work that way. You have some sort of priority. You are not being expressive about the priorities in public. So I would like to see that from Infor in terms of, okay, what are your priorities from the product perspective, and which are the products that customers should be investing their money on. So even if an ERP is going to cost, I don't know, man, maybe $100,000, $200,000, but when customers implement these ERP systems, they are going to be implementing it for 5-10 years, and sometimes their internal investment could be millions and millions of dollars. So you need to know which product you are investing your money and energy on, and you want to invest in something that is going to have a little bit of future. Now, if you and we are going to review the way their marketing has positioned the products, and this is what we saw with other vendors as well. Even in case of Epicor, we saw that, Epicor has a lot of different products, but the way they are driving their customers, they are driving their customers to their key strategic products, even though they are not being expressive about what is going to happen to these products. So if you look at, okay, I try to find some of the most famous products from Infor that a lot of customers have. For example, Visual. Visual is a very, 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 very successful product. But if you look at their customer journeys, the way marketing has designed the customer journeys, you are not going to find Visual in those customer journeys. So what does it mean? Does it mean that Infor is not as committed to Visual? They don't want newer customers to actually touch Visual. They want newer customers to be looking at some other products. So we are going to be reviewing all of that. Unless we have the data points, we cannot conclude, but that is something you should be paying attention to when you are reviewing these products.
Yeah, Sam, just to jump in on that for a quick second, I think that's one of the challenges from the customer perspective too. When you're in that sales process and you're investigating potential solutions, you may not be aware that this list exists. And without the knowledge of asking those questions to figure out, what does that kind of future pathway look like, you could be at a real disadvantage, potentially going through the discovery process with something that might not have a long life cycle. Back to your point about implementations lasting, between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Any other comments, guys? Okay. So when we look at the customer journeys, and this is the problem that we saw in case of the other vendors as well. In case of Infor, at least, this is not the alphabetical order for the industries. This is the real order. So one thing that you can conclude based on this ordering is Infor is really committed to aerospace and defense. It is not just the alphabetical order that by default you become committed, even though you don't need to commit. Okay. From the product perspective, in case of Epicor, Epicor is the closest competitor, obviously, for Infor when you look at the competitors. And in case of Epicor, we saw that they had very strong capabilities with their MES. Okay, they struggled with their CPQ. They acquired a new company for CPQ, and they had their quality module was not owned by them. Okay, now in case of Infor, Infor owns the quality module. They were really weak in their MES capabilities. That has always been the biggest hole for Infor. And now with the Industry 4.0, you didn't really have that MES component. And most of the manufacturing organizations care for MES far more than they care for ERP. just because of the Industry 4.0 initiative. So we have seen one of the moves that Infor has made. They have removed their Infor EAM product from their portfolio. And by the way, Infor EAM product was one of the most successful product with Infor. Okay, they have removed that product and acquired the MES product in their portfolio. Now, if you pay attention to this news, one of the things that you can conclude as a customer, okay, if you are on a very, very, very successful product and overnight somebody else is going to own it, then obviously you are at a risk with the products that you are going to be working with Infor. If you don't have the clear product strategy spelled out from Infor, what is going to happen to these products? Okay, so now when they have acquired the MES solution, now their positioning is going to be far stronger with their core ERP capability, because now you have the MES, and obviously the ERP offering was very strong in general from Infor for the hybrid organization. Now, if you compare this with some of the cloud native vendors, for example, if you compare with NetSuite or Acumatica, NetSuite is a great product, and that is going to have all of your multi-entity functionality. It's a very global product. It's a very successful product. But when you are going to look at the core and deep manufacturing capabilities, you will require tons of add-ons when you are going with NetSuite. Now, you are going to have all of that functionality packaged as part of your Infor. So in case of Infor, where they were going to struggle was going to be with that MES component, because you would probably require an add-on if you actually want to go with Infor, but now they have acquired that capability as well. So if you want to compare the closest competitor, obviously NetSuite and Acumatica, they are not going to be as close competitors, because you are going to require far more add-ons to be able to compare the functionality that your Infor or Apicore is going to provide. Now the closest competitor is going to be your Apicore versus Infor. So now in case of Apicore, they don't own their quality module. So you have a little bit of risk there. Okay. In case of Infor does own the quality module. So one thing that you might be able to conclude from this is Apicore, from the corporate strategy perspective, they are trying to target slightly lighter manufacturing organization. And the reason why they are targeting the lighter manufacturing organization, because for them, MES was a priority, then your quality module. For Infor, quality was a priority. Okay. Now let's compare this with some of the other vendors that we have seen. For example, Plex, QAD, we have seen IQMS. These are very, very, very comparable products, but most of them are going to be strong in one particular type of manufacturing. For example, in case of Plex, we saw that they are really strong in automotive. They are very strong in the Toyota ecosystem. They are not going to be as strong with the other sort of manufacturing. We saw in case of IFS was very, very, very strong in sort of non-traditional ERP industries, where you are going to have the asset management, field service components. They are not going to be as strong in, let's say, the make to stock, make to order. They are more the project based manufacturing. Now, when we look at companies like Genius, we reviewed. In case of Genius, that was really designed for those project based organizations. So, Apicore and Infor are the only two products in the market, or the companies that are really designed for that hybrid manufacturing center. Okay, when I say hybrid manufacturing, that is going to be the most organization nowadays. They are very complex, they are very agile, very hybrid. Okay, they are going to have a lot of complex products that they are building. Then they are going to be building some of the widgets as well. So they are going to require, in some cases, especially when you look at the contract manufacturers, okay, they are going to be building machinery, but they are going to be running some of these stamping machines as well. And they might have, or maybe, some of the injection molding, component, molded components they might have. So typically the organizations are far hybrid. So when you are looking at the hybrid manufacturing center, where you require a lot of different tooling and capabilities, that's where your Apicore and Infor are going to be real competitors. But then you need to pay attention to whether you are quality driven organization or not quality driven organization. If you are not as strong on the quality, then you would probably go for Apicore. If you are very regulated, very quality driven, which is going to be your aerospace, defense, automotive, and we are going to be talking about, there are some interesting mix here. For example, when you talk about chemicals, construction, these are very different industries. So when you look at the discrete manufacturing, that's going to have a very different play. They have very different products for those industries compared to the other one. So that's overall from the competitive landscape and how you should be drawing the lines among different vendors and the products. So now let's focus on the customer journeys. So when we look at the customer journey of the aerospace and defense, so obviously now your goal is going to be to find all of those 200 products. Okay, what is their place? So when I'm talking to Infor, okay, I need to know about my product where that fits in the customer journey or the industry. This is the similar trend that we saw even in case of Epicor as well, that even though they have 200 different products, but when you look at the customer journeys, they are only trying to position very, very, very specific products. And that says something, meaning Infor is probably going to be committed to only those products. I don't know about the other products. What is going to. So now let's look at the aerospace and defense. So we have two paths here. Number one, we have a lot of different edge products, as you can see here. So you are going to have Infor workforce management, Infor CPQ, Infor PLM. This is similar to how Epicor had designed their site. They had a bunch of edge products aligned with each of the industry, and they are trying to integrate that with your core ERP offering. So now they have two ERP offerings, just like your SAP, just like your Oracle. They have one of the SMB solution, and then they have one of the enterprise solution. Okay, enterprise solution is going to be far bigger. SMB solution is going to be far smaller. So here, when you look at the aerospace and defense, now this is going to be, if you pay attention to this column right here, this is the Infor LN product. That's your enterprise product for the aerospace and defense. Now, when you look at the Cloud Suite Industrial, this is the Infor Sightline product. This is the SMB product that they have. If you pay attention to the other components, they are fairly common. Infor OS, Infor Words, the other things are really common. The only differentiator between SMB and your large enterprise is going to be those two products, which is going to be Infor LN versus Sightline. Now, when you have so many different product offerings, sometimes it could be harder, okay, which specific product you are reviewing, and when you are looking at the capabilities, sometimes you might be looking at Infor LN capabilities, but you might be buying the Sightline product. So be careful there, which product you are buying and what specific capabilities that specific, product has. Now, if you look at their micro vertical, presence, they are claiming that they are present in aerospace, avionics, electronics, engine, OEM parts manufacturers, MRO service providers, space systems, tactical vehicles. And we have reviewed a lot of different vendors, and we have seen how specific the functionality gets for companies like MRO service providers, for companies like avionics. And the reason for that is because they are part of the airline ecosystem. They are not part of your aerospace manufacturing, aircraft manufacturing. So last time when we reviewed IFS, we said that, if you are going to be in the airline ecosystem, you are better off going with IS. But if you are in that aircraft manufacturing value chain and ecosystem, then probably Infor products are going to be slightly better fit for you. Now, if you look at the deeper capabilities, now my goal is going to be, okay, each of these micro verticals are uniquely different. They have very specific functionality that they require. But when we look at the marketing, okay, so here, if you look at the LN product here, they are saying, manage multiple bombs, costing breaks. Not sure if that is really specific to this micro vertical, because that could be applicable to a lot of different industries. Now, the second thing is they are saying simplified shop floor order splits. I'm not too sure if that is really specific to aerospace, and you guys can tell me if you have seen this in case of aerospace.
Most good quality systems can these days.
Right? So that's a very generalized description. It is not the unique functionality that aerospace or defense is going
to. Me too.
Exactly. But here, if you look at things like, automated process for bidding, contracting, execution, and revenue recognition, sure, any of the project-centric systems are going to have that functionality. And that's where the uniqueness is of Infor. So yes, this is going to be very unique in this specific case, but your genius is going to claim they are probably going to have that as well, because each of the system that is designed for that engineer to order project-based manufacturing, they are probably going to have that. Then you have the maintain compliance with rigorous government requirements. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know what they mean there.
Well, Sam,
That could
the point that I see on that, pardon me for a second, the built-in DCAC audit support. Now, yes, a Genius, yes, all these other systems will claim that, but I would expect this to be quite strong.
Exactly, and that's what I like to see when I look at the micro vertical functionality. So that should be the top line that they should have mentioned, but they have not mentioned for some. So that's what when I'm looking at. Okay, give me a very specific functionality. I am looking at, okay, give me very specific functionality for the aerospace, because they are going to have 1,000 line items that are going to be very different from your
Exactly
other
right,
solution.
Sam.
Yeah. So here, the support for firm fixed price, cost plus time and material contracts. Again, very generic, not relevant to aerospace. Managed service contracts for MRO and spare parts. So okay, they might have slightly more complex, this, but again, this is only applicable for Infor LN. You are not going to find in the Infor site line. So you need to be careful when you are reviewing this. Yeah.
You mentioned that cost plus and time and materials and fixed price were common. That is actually, those are strengths for government contract manufacturers.
Right, but I think you will find that functionality in a lot of vanilla ERP system. I can almost guarantee that Infor probably has far deeper functionality for these micro
Right.
verticals, but that needs to be translated in the marketing material, which is not. I'm not actually seeing if they have real functionality for aerospace and defense. That has to come across in the marketing material. That is not coming across. Now, if you look at Cloud Switch Industrial, this is the interesting part. Okay, this is the SMB solution that most manufacturers are going to use. Here, you are not going to find anything that is going to be really unique to that sightline product. So here, they are saying innovate faster and more efficiently. Okay, something, I don't know what that is. Manage production planning and scheduling, coordinate aftermarket service and maintenance. Sure, that could be a very unique advantage because that might not be present in a lot of different ERP systems. But then improve product quality, I don't know what that means. It needs to be slightly more specific. When you are saying that I can work for all of these micro verticals and I am known for my last mile functionality, I need to know what that last mile functionality is. So I'm actually going to move to the next slide.
Real quick on that last slide. Actually, I can use it on this slide too. You mentioned absent a clear product roadmap, the customers are left to guess if their particular product is going to be supported in the future. And then you reference that these products that are listed here, it's implying that these certainly will be invested in. But I'm also caught by the title Cloud Suite, because there's also an absence of their strategy in order to really get fully cloud functional. This implies that these products are also the products that are going to be cloud enabled. So they're not only the future, they're the cloud future because they're calling them Cloud Suite as the title.
That's how I would read.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, guys? So the next slide. So here we are looking at the next vertical, which is going to be automotive. And now you are going to see a little bit of trend here. Okay. So in case of, let's review the SMB solution. So here we have the Cloud Suite Industrial Solution, and then you have the, where is my LN? This is my LN. So here, in case of LN, if you guys remember, IQMS was certified for Honda. Okay. Plex was certified for Toyota. We very clearly saw that in the documentation. They had very spelled out data sheets for the functionality that Honda ecosystem or the Toyota ecosystem is going to have. So in case of Infor LN, okay, they have very clearly spelled out that I support Honda. So maybe they don't want to compete with Plex in the Toyota ecosystem because you are positioning yourself here as the Honda product, because you probably don't feel that you can compete with. So that's a point to note overall from the positioning perspective. But when you look at the micro vertical function, this is the kind of micro vertical functionality I am looking for. That if I'm part of that Honda ecosystem, is the product going to work for me? Because I'm going to require a lot more last mile function from the planning, from coordination, from the quality standards, the way I need to do the reporting to Honda in that ecosystem. So Infor LN is positioned for that micro vertical. Now, if you look at the Infor Sightline product, there is no mention of that. So does Sightline also have that specific functionality that all of these ecosystems are going to require? That is not spelled out. So we are not sure if your Sightline or the SMB solution that they are trying to position has all of those bells and whistles that all of these ecosystems in the automotive verticals are going to require. The other point to note here, So if you look at the suppliers, you are saying automotive suppliers, the tire suppliers, automotive OEMs, and then we are going to review one more product, okay, which is for wholesale and distribution vertical. Okay, that is a completely different product than Sightline. They don't position the Sightline products for those verticals. At least that is not spelled out in the customer journeys the way they are constructed on their corporate site right now. Okay, so that's a completely different product. Now, if you look at the average manufacturer or average distributor, the lines are really blurring in the business model. We all know this. Okay, the distributors are becoming manufacturers, the manufacturers are becoming distributors. So now, if you are a pure play manufacturing organization, this is going to be a great product. If you are a pure play distribution organization, they have a product for the distribution. And you are going to be in between, it's really hard. Okay, so that is going to be a challenge when you have these completely different product. And that's why sometimes when you have just one product that can do your manufacturing, construction, that can do your distribution, because a lot of companies are like that. They have very diverse offering. And sometimes what is going to happen when you are working with these partners, the only solution they might know is probably Sightline or Visual or LN or M3. And what they are going to do is they will try to fit that in with your business process, and you might have challenges there because the product is not really designed for that. So be careful there. Okay, any other comments, guys? Now, the next one is really...
I think it's pretty obvious from the two you're pointing out, and you'll be pointing out some more micro verticals as well. But I think it's pretty obvious the LN product, it targets world-class companies.
Exactly. It is targeted for slightly larger companies. It's not really designed for the smaller SMB companies. I don't think, Infor is trying to position it for the SMB market because they have very clearly spelled out in their customer journeys. If you look at SMB ERP for chemicals, it's very clearly spelled out that, okay, if you're SMB, you are not going for those larger products. Those are very large products that are going to compete with SAP S4HANA. They are going to be competing with your IFS of the world. They are going to be competing with Oracle. For SMB, they have completely different product, and the last mile functionality in the SMB product is not really. So that's where that would be my concern, that majority of the customers are going to be SMB and they are looking for, hey, Infor, give me my last mile function. I'm looking for that. My Epicor has very clearly spelled out last mile functionality in their marketing collateral. You have IFS that has done tremendous job. Plex, amazing job in spelling out that last mile functionality. We are not able to see that in case Infor.
Say, Sam,
Yeah.
there's a question on LinkedIn on a little better definition of last mile functionality, and my understanding is it's the detail functionality of the out of box solution, if you will, that's specific to the micro industry. So that they've built this last mile so that you get everything you need based for what your industry typically needs. Is that a good definition of last mile functionality, or what is a good definition?
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's very interesting, and I would build on top of that. So typically the way I like to think is, hey, you have got your ERP package. The only thing you really need to do is, if you simply need to do a little bit of configuration, then you have everything that you would require in an ERP. But that's not how the real world situations work. You are going to be doing a lot of customization on top of your vanilla ERP. For example, let's say if you are going to be buying SAP or Oracle, you are going to be putting a lot of functionality. If you are, let's say, in the aerospace, because they don't have the bells and whistles that are going to be, unless you are going for that large enterprise solution. We are not talking about the large enterprise solution. Even in case of Microsoft, when you go for, let's say, your Business Central is not going to have all of those bells and whistles for the specific functionality that each of these micro verticals are going to require. So you will require tons and tons of add-ons. In case of Infor, you are not going to require as many add-ons because the functionality is part of the product. So you don't have to buy separate add-ons or build the custom functionality on top of your core ERP. You will still be doing a little bit, but not as much.
I think one of the considerations, regardless of, which kind of case you're in a solution where you're going to have to do a significant amount of customization add-on, or in the case of Infor where potentially you are planning to do less of that, I think the consideration still comes into, and you kind of made the point a little bit earlier, but the size of the organizations that you're ultimately partnering with, who owns that code, kind of some of the other things that we've talked talked about in some previous sessions, I felt like it was worth kind of noting from a customer perspective that that's really a consideration to be mindful of, throughout this process.
I completely agree. All right,
And
guys.
that's one thing that Infor has been transparent about is they're saying clearly in a later slide that you own the code.
So do you want to build on that comment? Which slide are you referring to and which code are you
I might
talking
have
about?
misstated. They say clearly that you own your data. I misspoke. So they're saying that you own your data. I'm not sure they're saying who owns the code. So I think I misspoke on that.
Yeah, so the code is definitely, and by the way, we are going to be talking about the data as well. So even though they are saying that you own the data, but the data is going to be in the native format. And typically the native is going to be so ugly that nobody can really figure out what that is, to be honest. So it's you require Infor to be able to read that. So I don't know if that is going to have any value. So that is the marketing hype for all of the ERP vendors because everybody's trying to commercialize this idea. Hey, I'll give you your data, but what you are going to get is the database dump. So
Exactly.
whether you talk about Acumatica or Infor, it doesn't matter. Okay,
Exactly.
so you are
Sorry to get ahead of ourselves, Sam. I didn't mean that, but that's still a very good point when you get to that point.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, they don't say anything on who owns the code. I retract that.
yeah. So we are going to discuss all of that, but let's focus on our industry verticals. So this is a very industry specific verticals that I want to focus on. So the third in their list is really chemicals. And if you look at the way it is structured, if you look at the way they have positioned the Infor Cloud Suite SMB product, and this is the SMB product. If you look at the sort of the description, it's exactly same as your aerospace and automotive. But when you look at the industry, it's entirely different. I mean, chemicals is a very different industry than your discrete manufacturing. Okay, but the description is exact same. So they need to do a better job.
You're right. There's some unique things in there, Sam, but you're right. It's 90% cut and paste.
Yeah. So sure, you have a little bit of formulation, but I mean, again,
There's
but I mean, for the most part, a chemical organization is going to require far more capabilities. So, okay, now I'm getting that you are positioning your Sightline product for your process vertical, for your discrete vertical, but for the process vertical, you are going to require far deeper capabilities because those organizations are very, very different. Here,
you say that last mile.
Exactly. So now, in case of M3, they have extensive quality management and traceability capabilities. I don't know what extensive means, but they need to be slightly more specific. Okay, what are those capabilities? Creation and continuous improvement of formulas. Now, that could be something if you are talking about the continuous improvement, which would mean that you have the program management, the PLM function, and you are able to get them through your product cycle. So now those capabilities are going to be very unique that they have spelled out. The raw material sourcing from lower cost, I don't know what that means. That is probably going to be applicable to every single ERP. So yeah. So I am not seeing much of the chemicals specific functionality that I would like to see if they really have that last mile functionality that they are trying to claim, and they are claiming that I have a completely designed product for your vertical. So you should be talking about that product, and you should probably have 100-page marketing material on your site to be able to demonstrate your expertise if you are really claiming that you have a product designed specifically for that vertical. Okay.
Where are the irrefutable differences?
Yeah. Okay, so now we are going to be looking at some of the other verticals. This is again very unique vertical from your discrete. This is going to be your construction and engineering. In this specific case as well, the product that they are positioning is very different. So here they are saying Infor financials and supply management. And again, that's a very financial centric product. It's not really an ERP, to be honest, from the operational perspective. You will require tons and tons of add-ons to be able to patch this together for this specific vertical, but that's how they are trying to position. And by the way, if you look at the SMB, they don't really have any sort of SMB for the construction and engineering. So in my mind, when you are creating these customers, maybe create one for SMB and large customer, and then guide them through in their unique journey as opposed to mixing, because I think it could be very confusing. And here, in case of some of these micro verticals, again, they are very unique, but I'm not really seeing the functionality that these micro verticals are going to.
Well, interestingly, too, notice that up till this point, and including corporate, you have a cloud suite trademark and you have a specific products included. And then you get to construction and property management, and there's neither. They're neither calling that a cloud suite, nor are they providing you with a product list of what they apply to it.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually going to go by your definition. So if they don't have cloud suite, means they are probably not going to be migrated to cloud. Okay, so they are very legacy product that they are carrying just because they have to support those products, but I don't know how long. So I think this is similar to what Apicor is doing with their product portfolio as well. Now, this is a very interesting vertical, and this should be probably higher in the list because this is a discrete vertical, high tech and electronics. So here again, you have the Infor Ellen, which came back, in terms of positioning for those larger accounts. And in the smaller accounts, you have the sight line. Again, that came back. And if you actually pay attention to the description, it is exact same as your automotive and aerospace. So where is that last mile function? Okay, if you have something for high tech and you are saying I am very, very, very unique in my communication, consumer electronics, defense electronics, manufacturing, industrial electronics, each of these businesses are very different. Guys, spell it out. If you really have something that is going to be very unique to these micro verticals. Now, in the enterprise solution, automates processes for bidding, contracting, execution, and revenue recognition. If you guys pay attention to your aerospace, I think it has similar, flavor. So is it really the last mile? Probably not. It's a common functionality that is going to be applicable in a lot of different verticals, but that's probably not last mile for high tech. Now, here we are looking at manage production planning and scheduling, innovate faster and more efficiently. I don't know what that means. Optimize production. Again, I am not seeing any last mile functionality, as they are claiming from their corporate strategy perspective, that I have very deep functionality for these verticals, but I am not seeing that. Okay, the next vertical that we have is going to be industry software products. Which one is this? Is the industrial automation vertical, and industrial automation is going to be your equipment, similar to the one that Genius targets. This is going to be slightly more project-centric, manufacturing. So here we have the LN product. Obviously, this is designed for your hybrid manufacturing, discrete. That's why we have LN and Sightline here. But if you look at the Sightline description, guys, it's exact same, compared to your automotive and aerospace. Now, if you look at the industrial manufacturing, okay, in case of industrial manufacturing, the description that they have is exact same as your aerospace. So a lot of copy paste, I get it, but when you are claiming that you are really designed for those last mile, okay, describe what that is if you really have something. Otherwise, it's overselling in my mind. Okay, here software products for wholesale distributors, and this is the one that I was talking about. That for the distribution market, in case of distribution, and this is they have come back to your Infor M3 here with their customer journeys. So they are positioning Infor M3 for the wholesale distribution market, but for the SMB, so they are not positioning LN. Okay, pay attention to that, guys. So M3 was your food product, chemicals, process-centric products. They are positioning M3 for the larger distributors, but for the smaller ones, they are again positioning Infor distribution SXC product. They are not positioning Sightline. So if you are a hybrid organization, sometimes it could be harder to work with. Okay, which product do you want to go with? If you go with SXE, you are not going to get manufacturing functionality. You go with Sightline, you are going to struggle with your distribution. So I don't know if Infor really has a place for those hybrid organizations, but because, and in my mind, I think a lot of organizations are really becoming hybrid. So from the product strategy perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense how they are going to be catering with all of those businesses, especially when your product portfolio is going to be so broad that is going to require so much investment that you are probably not able to build as much last mile functionality that you should be building if your corporate strategy is really to provide the last mile functionality. But since you have so much, duplicate code base, that's why you are probably not able to build the functionality that these customers really need in those key verticals. Okay, if you guys have any other comments on this, I can take. Otherwise, I'm actually going to move to the next screen. So now we are going to get into some of the press releases that they have done over the period of time, and we are going to be reviewing their strategy, how it has evolved over the period of time, and that will give us a sense of why they are where they are as of today and what is going to be for them even in the future. So here they are saying that, after acquiring various enterprise software companies, the last one, big one, was ERP vendor called Lawson Software in 2011. Guys, so Infor actually stopped doing this, to be honest, okay? ECI and Apicor, they are doing this in 2020. Okay, Infor has learned its lesson that when you have 200 products in the portfolio, it doesn't go very well. So after that, they have stopped acquiring all of these tiny products. The only acquisitions that they have made lately are going to be related to the holes that they have in their product portfolio to be able to close those deals versus acquiring exactly duplicate product, which is what ECI is doing at this moment of time. So you are going to have all of those risks in case of your ECI. Now, here they are saying that, you know what, Infor has worked hard to create exceptionally usable SaaS versions. Now, we are going to review that. Okay, so they are saying they have worked on extremely usable SaaS versions, but they have to comply with their own prem customer base. So obviously, they are not cloud native by any means. The cloud native products are going to be your Acumatica, NetSuite, Sage Intacct of the world. They are not going to have as rich functionality. They are going to have far superior user experience just because they are designed for that specific purpose. Now, the company now offers 23 Cloud Suite products and has integrated artificial intelligence and analytics later through its 2017 acquisition of Burst into cloud platform. More importantly, roughly half of these Cloud Suite offerings drill into verticals from aerospace to healthcare to fashion, drawing on common backend services while regularly adding new vertical features based on customers. The backend that they are referring to, guys, that's the backend sort of the infrastructure layer that is actually sourcing all of these different products in one platform so that they can easily integrate all of these products in the backend. It's not one product. Underneath, they all are very, very, very product. They all have very different databases. With other vendors, you have same database. The only thing that is going to be different is going to be just the flavor, skin, the functionality that you have industry functionality. Obviously, there are pros and cons to both approaches. This is going to have far harder migration path when you have completely different, products compared to when you have just one product that is designed for that specific industry. Now, here, while here this analyst, I think this guy is from tech organization from Montreal, and he is saying that while Infor paints a rosy picture of multi-tenant cloud ERP, the proof will be in the pudding. Okay, here they are saying multi-tenancy is always a good move, but let's see whether they can really deal with no customizations and monthly updates. By the way, in case of Infor, the way I have read in their press, they are trying to release this on a monthly basis. So obviously their product is going to be extremely cool. The way the product is designed, because it still has all of the features that your on-prem products have. On-prem products were very friendlier in terms of development. Cloud products are not as friendlier because we are not there overall in terms of technology to be able to put all of that infrastructure in the browsers just yet. So in case of Infor, you are going to get far deeper customization capability than any other products that we have in the market. But at the same time, when you have the monthly updates, okay, that's actually going to break everything that you have done for yourself. So so you need to be careful. So you don't really have sort of a control that you are going to get in case of NetSuite Acumatica. They have very controlled updates. They don't really have forced updates. In case of Infor, they are doing forced updates right now on a monthly basis. Now, continual retaining or revalidation seems to be very disruptive to customers, and that's exactly the point that he's trying to make here. Who might prefer to have a choice how often and when to update. Infor's industry-specific approach is nothing new. It is major part of SAP's strategy, and I have to agree with him. SAP has very different strategy. SAP relies on their partners to build the last mile functionality. Infor is trying to do everything on their own. Okay, Infor likes to eat the whole pie by themselves as opposed to sharing with their partners. So obviously that's going to be a strategy, and that's why the partners are not as big in case of SAP. But obviously from the customer's perspective, if you pay attention to the customer, it's going to have risk in both cases. In case of SAP, your partner is very small, so obviously you are going to have ton of risk when you are going to have 20% code owned by partner, 80% code owned by OE, and then the partner quality could be questionable as well. In case of Infor, you are going to get everything from Infor built by Infor. So obviously that is going to be an advantage. Epicor has been pushing a similar theme. He's right. Epicor has been pushing. They have very specific industry functionality, very specific micro vertical strategy. In fact, QAD has similar strategy. IFS has similar strategy. Whichever products that we have reviewed so far, they all are trying to compete in very specific micro verticals. Infor will need to back up the customer bill of rights. And by the way, guys, we are going to review the customer bill of rights. So Infor released their bill of rights after Acumatica had released. Acumatica was the first company who had released their customer bill of rights because they wanted to be transparent with their customers. There are a bunch of things that they have, from the customer perspective, because there were practices in the industry. For example, companies like Oracle and NetSuite, they were not as expressive in terms of who owns the data, etc. So all of that is now part of the bill of rights. But we are going to review that. Okay, how much that means, or is that really a marketing hype to be able to sell their products? So we are going to review all of that. Now, here they are saying that Infor will need to back up the customer bill of rights with actions. He said, as software vendors have often offered similar promises that don't always match the execution, and he's absolutely there. And even if they are able to execute, it doesn't really add much value. It's really marketing hype. So we'll review how much it really means for the customers. We don't have one product. We have one ERP system for healthcare, and this is where they are clearly detailing that these are very specific products designed for these specific industries, one for discrete manufacturing industries, a completely separate product for process manufacturing. But again, I could not see the last mile functionality that I would expect for those verticals. Now, this is the bill of rights that they have mentioned there. So here they are saying on an annual contract basis, you can swap seats among many of your Infor SaaS products to suit the evolving need of your business. Now, guys, when you look at this flexibility, when you have too many different products, you have too many players involved, you have too many partners involved, you have too many sales reps involved. It's not as easy to simply swap. Okay, you have product 1 today, I'll give you product 2 today. ERP systems don't work that way. Okay, in reality. So even though you are calling this in your bill of rights, it doesn't really mean anything. When you get into the details, then you will realize how complicated it gets when you are switching from one product to the next. So again, don't pay attention to this. This is all marketing. I don't think you are going to get much value, irrespective of whether Acumatica is doing that or Infor is doing that. A lot of these things are really marketing play. They don't really add any value for the customer. Now, availability you can count on. So here they are saying that I promise the SLA of 99.7 availability under one standard SLA, and will share our availability status. When we speak with Infor customers, the 99.7 is very high SLA overall, but most of the ERP systems that we know always go down. So when you have 24/7 status for your e-commerce, your ERP system is not going to work there. Okay, so even though they are saying 99.7, which is very high, but your ERP system is going to go down for the maintenance. Okay, so you need to figure this out, how you are going to accommodate that. Because as a customer, if you have 24/7 strategy, and if you are utilizing your ERP for your retail transactions, that's it. Are you going to be off for those courses? So you need to figure that out. So I don't know whether 99.7 SLA covers that window that is going to be down for the maintenance or not. That's what every single ERP vendor is doing. But this is overinflated in my view. Now, the second point is you control your data. This is the marketing hype, guys. Okay, sure, you control the data, but you are going to get a database dump, guys. Okay, what are you going to do with that? You have to have Infor license to be able to read that data. Even I, as a developer, cannot figure anything out unless you give me a software that is capable of reading that data and the table structure. It's going to be very, very, very high. You are going to have 10,000 tables. What am I going to do with that? There's no way for me to be able to sort of reframe that data unless I understand how those tables are designed, how that data structure is related. Unless I have the data model, the business rules of the ERP system, it doesn't really mean anything. So, okay. So, irrespective of whether NetSuite is saying that, Infor is saying, Acumatica, controlling your data is not really much of a point as a customer for you. Now, here, let's look at some more commentary. So, we want to do the last mile and customize it in the cloud. Sure, last mile I could not really see. We build our product by industry. If we don't have it, let's edit and customize their applications. I get it. This is all last mile functionality. But again, I am not seeing the last mile functionality, at least in the marketing material. We are doing the upgrades monthly now. It's very clearly stated that they are saying that, we are doing updates monthly. This was the play because they wanted to say that I am true multi-tenant product, because multi-tenant products are supposed to be doing the updates monthly. But even some of the other vendors that we have in the market, they are going to be pure multi-tenant, but they are not necessarily doing updates monthly because that could be very disruptive for the customers. Here they are saying we had an aircraft manufacturing company upgrade just last year from on-prem to the cloud and drop 2,500 mods. We are trying to shrink the size of the systems integration industry. We don't want them to customize any of our apps. Now, this is a attack on the partner community, to be honest. So the system integrator is going to be partners who are really building these customizations. And obviously, they need the business model. Their business model is aligned towards customization. That's how they make money. So if you are not going to allow them to make these customizations, how are they going to make money? So that could be the reason why they have such a leaner channel, because obviously the intent is right, but how successful that is overall from the execution perspective could be questionable. Here they are saying that the workload analytics, federated security, document management, AI, just a bunch of stuff needed to build an application. About 700 people maintain that. So they have roughly 700 support staff that are maintaining this backend layer that they have called Infor OS and functions like financials and HCM. And then they are saying they can share, but some parts are unique to that industry. And that's what Cloud Suite is. So Cloud Suite is very industry functionality. At least we didn't see anywhere in the marketing material. Where is that specific functionality facing? I'm not seeing that. Okay, so I don't have anything else. If you guys have any comments, I can take those. Otherwise, I'm actually going to move to the next slide. Some more commentary. So here they are saying, what about adding functionality? Salesforce has Force platform for that. These guys are saying, we have a platform called Mongoose. Mongoose is a similar platform play. It's not really the business application. In case of Salesforce, also you can customize, but who's going to pay for that? Customer is going to pay for that, right? So when you are customizing, developing anything on top of your platform, so even though the platform could be customizable, but you as a customer are paying for those customizations. Here they are saying we have something like 30,000 APIs around the product line. Now, when you have 30,000 APIs, if I am the developer who is accessing all of these APIs, they need to be documented for me to be able to develop, to be able to map, to be able to code. And if those are not documented, and some of the legacy companies, they carry the code from 1980s, and there is not much documenting that have been done. In fact, the internal teams may be supporting, those existing teams may be supporting products to this day. And if that happens, you are not going to find any documentation related to that product. And sometimes it could be extremely hard to be able to develop anything on top of that. So even though you have a massive code base, massive product base, pay attention to whether you have the enough documentation for you to be able to develop. So here you
Sam, where it says 30,000 APIs around a product line, do you think that means they're stating that one of their products has 30,000 APIs?
I think this is the comment for the entire Infor OS platform that they have. It's not 3,000. Okay. It's 30,000 APIs, guys. 30,000 APIs is a massive. And by the way, this is just a backend layer. Infor OS does not really have sort of your business functionality built as part of that. It's supposed to be agnostic for it's a platform, right? For that, they have 30,000 APIs. And now imagine the kind of documentation that you are going to require for those APIs. It's going to be really hard. So if you want to extend your application, you can use Mongoose, which has all multi-tenancy and everything else. Here they are saying that sounds like platform as a service, hopefully not in some proprietary language. So here the CEO is saying, no, it's Microsoft.NET. But again, the products, the way Infor acquired, they were all in different sort of technologies. They are still carrying that. You will not be able to convert all of those 200 products in the modern technology. That's why you figured out, okay, how can I get this collaborator, which is called Infor OS, so I can render different technologies? Conceptually, it sounds great, but it's not as easy overall from the execution perspective. So here they are saying, are all your cloud applications built on .NET? Most of our applications are Java-based and run on Linux. Okay, we do have a significant contingent of .NET apps as well, but most of our new development is on Java and Angular 2. As far as my understanding goes, Mongoose platform could be .NET based. That's my understanding. Angular 2, I don't know where that is fitting in overall development. I don't know if their UI is really built. At least based on how I saw in the screenshot, I cannot really if that is really built on Angular. We are going to see all of those screenshots. So here the analyst is saying, but isn't that expertise expensive for you across all those different verticals? It is. That's the business we are in. That's your point of creation. I would rather put the money there than building the data centers. Sure, some of the companies are trying to build their data centers. For example, Oracle. But Oracle also sells the infra. They have revenue line for that. So, that's a very different comparison. Okay, you cannot compare Oracle with Infor. Now, in case of your SAP has its own data centers. Okay, so now they don't really, and that could be their challenge why they don't really have the last mile fee, because they don't have as much money. That's why they are asking their partners to build their last mile functionality, because it requires a lot of money. So now, in case of Infor, they have to find this money from somewhere. So where are they finding this money? So either the last mile functionality is not there, they are simply claiming that they have a lot of last mile functionality, or they are going to find this money from somewhere. So they are either going to shortcut on the documentation, or they are going to prioritize one bunch of products, or they are going to do something, or they are going to cut down on support. So somewhere this money is coming from that is not entirely clear, where Infor is able to find this money to support 200 products. So do some research in terms of which are the products that you can really go after, because no company in the world is going to have money to be able to support those many products. You have to be a strategy. Okay, so here they are saying you are on AWS now. Yes, they are on AWS. That's very clear in the releases. Now, here's some vague definition about IoT, but the convergence point for a lot of. So here, this was a comment related to their enterprise asset management. So here, the CEO had said that, what, we have the enterprise asset management tool that we are going to utilize to get into my IoT space so that I can win a lot of deals. But then you actually spun off the asset management product. That was your darling product that you had, but now it's not there as part of your portfolio. So what does it mean for the customers? What is going to happen to the other customers? So these are the questions that you should be asking when you are dealing with Infor. Doesn't maintaining 5 industry specific SaaS platforms invoke development expenses? That is true. Short answer is yes. They are agreeing that yes, that is right. When you are maintaining so many different instances, yes. But they are claiming that, hey, I spend a lot more in R&D. No, you have to find that money from somewhere. So where are you finding that money from? So where is that money coming from? That is not entirely clear, at least in the press releases. So they are cutting short somewhere. Where they are cutting short is not clear. If you think about it, we have basically 5 SaaS platforms, 5 completely different SaaS ERP systems that we have had to completely rewrite. So here they are saying you cannot really customize in the multi-cloud environment, which is true as well. They are looking for that last mile strategy. That's pretty much it.
Well, Sam, I have one question. You talked a lot, and I think really covered it well on the last mile. But they also stated several times that they have an individual product for each of their verticals or micro verticals, and yet I didn't see individual products. I saw common products. So where are the individual products? Did I miss that, or is it really not there in their backup that they have that?
So my understanding is, when you look at these cloud suite products, the way they are marketed, there is going to be a bundle underneath. So that's the real product that you are buying. It is combination of a lot of different products. Again, that's the ERP is going to be just one, but then you need far more along with the ERP. For example, let's say if you are going to have PLM, a lot of companies, what they are doing is they are bringing PLM capabilities, they are bringing your EAM capabilities as part of your ERP. In case of Infor, you are going to have a core ERP product, and then you are going to have some of the edge products. For example, let's say if you require far deeper HCM capabilities, they have a workflow management product that is going to be combined as part of your core ERP. Now, then with the new MES acquisition, you are going to see the MES being bundled as part of the core cloud suite. So, so that's how they are going to position. But no, you're right. I mean, it's a seamless strategy. I mean, there's nothing different.
Right. And Andy, you would know, and Sam, you as well, you would know better. But that is more logical to me as the structure of the software versus claiming that it's all individual products specific to an industry, not really having that be what's behind the information, and then having us scratching our heads saying, how does that even work?
Well, Phil, I think, it kind of hits on, if you think back to a lot of these sessions, right, from a marketing perspective, at least the solutions that we've reviewed from that perspective, because that's the information that's been available. A lot of these OEMs are marketing as such, we can be everything for everyone. And if we are not today, we will build it, which, I think a lot of marketers in general, even outside of the ERP space, do similar things. So I think that's the challenge, is to continue to articulate clearly what those differentiators are and what that customer journey looks like. And, what does it look like today, but what does it also look like moving into the future? Because this is a solution that is going to hopefully live with you for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Phil, I think what you were observing is dead on. And Sam mentioning there are only so many products in any company that's going to be a go forward.
Yeah.
That's just common sense. But a lot of these systems, they say they're describing them in, as Sam pointed out, the same product for 4 or 5 different verticals. But partly the difference is there is a core system that no matter which company, they buy that. And then depending upon their specific requirements or unique requirements, aerospace is a beautiful example, you would purchase the specific optional module or the quality module or the MES module or the whatever it is for their specific needs, so that it kind of becomes vertically targeted, but really it's the same system.
And that makes sense to me, Andy. And I just don't think that's the way they're really presenting themselves. And these reviews, we base our opinions on what is publicly available, right? We don't go behind the scenes. It's what they're presenting is what we're reflecting.
Completely right.
And I think they got a good story to tell. And I don't understand why they're trying to tell a different story than what their actual story is.
That's the most amazing thing you've ever said, Phil.
On that note, I want to thank everybody for their time and insights.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Andy Pratico, head over to essoft.com. It's ESSOFT.com. If you want to learn more about Phil Kerper, head over to ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. It's ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. If you want to learn more about Dave Chrysler, follow him on the Chrysler.club. It's THECRYSLER.CLUB. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Bob Feathers, who shares his insights and lesson learned from a multi-site ERP implementation. Also the interview with Mark Lilly, who shares his journey of being involved with several manufacturing ERP software systems and scheduling deficiencies in the visual manufacturing ERP software. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.